Chairman, it's Jo Heather, Democratic Services speaking. Just to let you know that the live stream is up and running, so you may start the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jo. Good morning. Welcome to this virtual meeting of the Customer and Support Services Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Before consideration of today's business, I'll outline the protocols for the meeting. Today's meeting is being live streamed to the public via Microsoft Teams and is also being recorded. May I remind members and officers to introduce yourselves each time you speak and turn your video and microphone off when you have finished speaking. If the Council's live stream fails during the meeting and we cannot share the proceedings, I will adjourn the meeting so that access can be restored. If the issue cannot be resolved, I will halt the meeting and the remaining business will be concluded at a future date. If a member experiences a technical issue, I will adjourn for a short period to try and re-establish their connection. Members wishing to speak or ask a question should indicate by typing an X in the chat box. As I call members to speak, I will remind you to switch your microphone on. If for some reason you cannot be heard, the Democratic Services Officer will advise you. Votes will be taken using a roll call procedure. The Democratic Officer will read out the recommendation and the name of the proposer and seconder will then be called. Each member committee to vote in turn. You should confirm your name and advise whether you vote in favour or against the recommendation or whether you wish to abstain from the vote. The Democratic Officer will then count the votes and advise the result accordingly. Where a member has declared a non-registrable interest, a disclosable pecuniary interest, or an interest by virtue of any trade union membership in a matter, they must leave the virtual meeting. Their departure will be confirmed and they will be invited to rejoin the meeting at the appropriate time. I plan to have a short break mid-morning and then to break for lunch around 1:30 for half an hour. However, I will try to avoid breaking mid-agenda item. Before we start today's business, I will ask the Democratic Services Officer to confirm members and officers who are in attendance.
Thank you, Chairman. Tracy Clark, Democratic Services Officer. I will now call your name. Please confirm your name and your electoral division. Councillor David Atherfold.
Councillor Atherfold, Camborne, Treslothen.
Councillor Stephen Barnes. I don't think he's present on the call currently. Councillor David Biggs.
Dave Biggs, Camborne, Treslothen.
Councillor Neil Burden.
Neil Burden, Stoke Clemson Division.
Councillor Richard Buscombe.
Richard Buscombe, Padstow Division.
Councillor Martin Eddy.
Good morning, Councillor Martin Eddy, St Cleer Division.
Councillor John Fitter.
Good morning, John Fitter, Colin, St Morgan and Newquay North.
Councillor Lee Frost.
Councillor Lee Frost, Bodmin St Petrock.
Councillor David Harris.
David Harris, Truro Trehaven.
Councillor Helen Hawkins.
Helen Hawkins, St Buryan Division.
Councillor John Keeling.
Councillor John Keeling, Bree, Gurmo and Sethney Division.
Councillor Oliver Monk.
Councillor Monk, Newquay Trelawven.
Councillor Robin Moorcroft.
Good morning, Tracy. Robin Moorcroft, Weybridge West.
Councillor Carol Mould.
Good morning, Carol Mould, St Member and St Endelian Division.
Councillor Armand Toms.
Councillor Armand Toms, Lew East and St Martins.
Councillor Stephen Barnes, have you joined the call now?
I have.
Thank you. I can confirm that the following cabinet members are also present. Councillor Julian German, Leader of the Council, Councillor Adam Painter, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Resources, Councillor Mike Ethel Gibbons, Cabinet Member for Customers. I can confirm that the following officers are also present. Tracy Langley, Chief Operating Officer and Section 151 Officer, Phil Mason, Strategic Director for Economic Growth and Development, Ben Rom, Service Director for Operations and Change, Rachel Rotherow, Head of Commercial and Investments, Kevin Reeder, Estates Transformation Strategic Lead, Natalie Ellsworthy, Shareholder Specialist, Karen Seagrove, Business Analyst, Graham Potter, Estate Transformation Business Lead. From the CoreServe group, attending for the CoreServe business plan item will be Kath Robinson, Managing Director, Phil Morstan, Finance Manager, and Peter Andrew, Chair of the CoreServe Board. From Treveth Holdings, attending for the Treveth business plan item will be Tim Mulholland, Managing Director, Adam Ronaldson, Commercial and Finance Director, Ian Cox, Chair of the Treveth Board, Laura Gardner, Senior Valuer at Cornwall Council, and for the Wave Hub item will be Steve Jermy, Chair and Acting CEO of Wave Hub Limited, Ian McElworth, Head of Investment and Growth at Cornwall Council. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed for that. Moving to the agenda. Agenda item 1, apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chairman. We've had apologies from Councillor White and Councillor Toms is substituting. We've had apologies from Councillor Saunders and Councillor Harris is substituting. And we've had apologies from the leader that he will need to leave the meeting from approximately 12:30 to 2 p.m. As he is speaking at the Supporting Local Arts and Culture Conference on utilising available resources to ensure the survival of local creative economies.
Thank you very much indeed. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest, please. Any declarations of interest? Okay, thank you very much. Agenda item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 26th of January 2021. Does anyone want to raise an issue in regard to technical accuracy? If so, please put a cross in the box now. If not, I will propose that they were correctly recorded. Would my Vice Chair like to second that motion?
Yes, I'll do it. Yes.
I'll now hand over to Tracy Clark to confirm the proposal and conduct the vote by roll call. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. Tracy Clark, Democratic and Governance Officer. I can confirm that the proposal is the minutes of the meeting of the Customer and Support Services Overview and Scrutiny Committee held on the 26th of January 2021 were correctly recorded and that they be signed by the Chairman. And that's been proposed by Councillor Buskeb and seconded by Councillor Burden. And so now to go to the vote. Councillor Atherfold.
For.
Councillor Barnes.
For.
Councillor Biggs.
For.
Councillor Burden.
For.
Councillor Buscombe.
For.
Councillor Eddy.
For.
Councillor Fitter.
For.
Councillor Frost.
For.
Councillor Harris.
Abstain, not present at the meeting.
Councillor Hawkins.
For.
Councillor Keeling.
For.
Councillor Monk.
For.
Councillor Moorcroft.
For.
Councillor Mould.
For.
Councillor Toms.
Abstain, not at the meeting.
I can confirm, Chairman, that that's 13 for and 2 abstentions, so that's carried.
Thank you very much indeed. Moving on to agenda item number 4, public questions. We have received a public question from Amanda Pennington of Weybridge. Amanda, are you there and are you able to hear me?
I certainly am here and I can hear you.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Would you like to go ahead with your question, please?
Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you for letting me speak. My question is this. Given the £5 million operating grant unrelated to COVID made by the council to GLL in respect of the first 2 years of the franchise for sports facilities, what benefits have accrued to the people of Cornwall that are over and above the benefits delivered under the previous contract? Thank you.
Chairman, would you like me to
yes, please,
respond to that?
Councillor Ethel Givens to reply, please.
Thank you. Ms Pennington, good morning and thank you for your question. I shall be as brief as I can and make 2 points. Firstly, I set out some achievements and benefits. So firstly, the context. Prior to GLL taking on the council's contract 2017 to manage the portfolio of leisure centres, Cornwall Council paid the previous contractor, Tempest Leisure, an annual revenue subsidy of 3.5 million, whilst also paying all utility costs, which were about 1.5 million, and all building maintenance costs. Overall, the leisure services contract cost Cornwall Council between £5 and £6 million each year. As part of the leisure exercise, the council had a twofold aspiration. Firstly, for leisure to be at zero cost for the authority and its taxpayers, and secondly, for the service to be improved within the reduction of council funding. As a new operator was starting from April 2017, after a competitive tender exercise, it would not be possible to move from a 5 to 6 million loss-making position to break even overnight. Therefore, a 2-year subsidy of 4.6 million was agreed to allow the new operator time to make the changes they had committed to in their successful bid. So moving on into the achievements and benefits. Overall, GLL has made many changes and improvements during this time to improve the customer experience and be efficient. These changes have benefited the customers in many ways. I highlight just a few. There are many others. Firstly, in the first 2 years of operation, GLL completed investments in line with their bid to improve the leisure offer. This included investments in Launceston, Saltash, Liskeard, Wadebridge, Waterworld, Ships and Castles, Truro and St Ives. All had existing gym upgrades and refurbishments, plus a new gym equipment. Meanwhile, Bodmin, St Austell, Helston and Bude had brand new gyms and studios built. Meanwhile, St Austell, Bude and Truro also had either new or refurbished changing room projects completed. Finally, in St Austell, a new soft play centre was established. Personally, I found that great fun to use. Thankfully, but possibly around to capture the moment. It would have been fun if there were. More seriously, it should also be noted the work began on the development of New Quay Trampoline and Play Park, which opened in July 2019. Secondly, there have been the installation of new customer-facing technology. This includes online bookings and payments, swim lesson course management, and other online services designed to make the customer journey easy for all customers. Thirdly, there was the launch of the JLL's Sports Foundation, providing financial support to over 100 Cornish athletes across the county, some of whom will be competing in the Olympics in Tokyo. Fourthly, JLL achieved Quest accreditation for all centres, thus ensuring they met a nationally recognised standard, naming the Sport England's. JLL also became a smart sugar operator, providing healthy vending, launched Healthwise and Health Walk programmes, working public health and other stakeholders to improve personal well-being. Fifth and finally, JLL completed energy management training and invested capital and effort in driving down the leisure centre carbon footprint. Within these 2 years, it was reduced by 20%. This resulted from significant improvements to the leisure centre plant and machinery, with over 3 million spent in the first 2 years on a range of projects, from new boilers and air handling to LED lighting and new pool covers. All these changes ensured that many of the previous operational difficulties, such as a lack of hot water or cold swimming pools, have been resolved, thus also improving the efficiency of our leisure centres. So in conclusion, Chairman, I believe these achievements have brought many benefits to customers with the contractor. In summary, the present contractor is providing a better service at a lower cost than this predecessor. That concludes what I have to say, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Now, I don't know if it was just me, Mike, but quite a bit of that was, you broke up quite a bit. Now, can I ask Amanda, was there anything in particular you would like Councillor Ethron-Gibbons to repeat, please? Because he did break up on a few occasions there.
Yeah, I think I got the overall gist of it, and with your permission, Chair, I do have a supplementary question.
Yes, please go ahead, Amanda.
Could I just correct Councillor Ethron-Gibbons in the first instance that Tempest Leisure did not receive £3.5 million in an annual management fee from Cornwall Council. The last year our annual management fee was £625,000. But my supplementary question is this. Given that the Tempest bid for the management contract was going to save Cornwall Council £400,000 a year, I'm not quite sure how we're justifying giving them a £5 million operating grant for the first 2 years when the Tempest bid would have saved Cornwall Council £400,000 a year. So it's more of a statement than a question.
I think I've already addressed that issue. I hope you can hear me. Yes, the reception this end is not good, Chairman. I do understand. I think I've addressed that statement already in terms of the reason for providing a 2-year subsidy for 4.6 million, and that was done to allow the new operator to make the changes they had committed to in their successful bid. We have since moved on with the new contract, and I think everybody agrees that it's working well. Customers are very much happier, and I think the future looks very good with the current contractor.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Councillor Yvonne Gibbons. Could I ask that you write to Amanda with both of your answers, please, just so she can, get the full gist of what you said. I think that's only fair under the circumstances. And Amanda, thank you very much for answering your questions, and we welcome your interest in this very important subject. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Bye-bye.
Before we go on to item 5, I don't know if Councillor Brown and Councillor Barnes can hear me, but you've got your cameras on. I don't know if you were aware of that. I think we saw what you had for breakfast. Looks very nice. Moving on, item 5, Chairman's opening remarks. Now, I'd like to just say a few words, if I could, please, because this is our last meeting of the municipal term, and as this is our last meeting, I just wanted to take the opportunity to say a few words of thanks and reflect on some of the key pieces of work we've done over the past 4 years. Firstly, my thanks to my Vice Chairman, Councillor Neil Burden, for all his help and support, not just in the committee meetings, but all the additional work that goes with the role to ensure that everything runs smoothly. And could I just say that Neil and I talk over Microsoft Teams, at least 3 times a week about the committee's work and what we plan to do in the future, and all the issues that are happening in Cornwall Council that reflect on our committee. So Neil and I have had a very smooth and constructive relationship, and in the early days, at least, I did benefit enormously. From his guidance. So I do thank Neil for that. Thank you too for committee members, both past and present, for your work in examining the enormous amount of paperwork we receive and your diligence in questioning and holding the executive to account and in helping to shape future policy. Thanks to Cabinet members for your regular updates. They've been very welcome and constructive. Thanks to our officers in the CAS Directorate, led by Tracy Langley, and her service directors for providing comprehensive reports and supporting member scrutiny and policy development. Very helpful to us all. Now, it's been a very particularly challenging year for both officers and members, responding to the pandemic and with additional lockdown and financial pressures. We've succeeded in continuing with our work, both in our communities and with the use of virtual committee meetings, and everybody involved should be commended for their contributions. Thank you from members who have volunteered to sit on our working groups and report back to the main committee. This gave us the ability to look in more depth at those important matters which affect this authority. And I'd like just to give a reflection on the task and finish groups that have been held in the last 4 years, because I think they've done some really good work, and they've really helped lay a bedrock of information for future councillors to draw on. I'd like to begin with the customer access task and finish group. This was led by Councillor Burden, with councillors Atherfold, Eddy, Keeling and Wold. Its key focus was to enable more of the council's services to be accessed digitally, while recognising that will always be a need for additional support for some people. We need to ensure that Cornwall's residents can continue to access council services by telephone or face-to-face where necessary, and that they are not excluded by a digital approach. We also had the Performance Management Working Group led by Councillor Beeks, with Councillor Atherfold, Ecclesmythe, Frost and Pearce, This group looked at current practices in Cornwall Council and its group of companies and the best practice in other authorities to identify areas for improvement. Councillor Biggs and his group supported the corporate move towards Power BI, that's business intelligence, as a tool for using and visualising the vast amount of data held by the council. The recommendations mainly focused around fully understanding the costs and putting effective plans in place to ensure a successful move to Power BI and the full realisation of its benefits. As a result, the Power BI project was included in the Council's strategic and critical projects to give the focus and resources to enable it to progress. In addition, the group asked for particular consideration to be given to the scrutiny of data, security of data, ethical control, and the availability of information to members. Towards the end of 2019, we had a half-day whole committee inquiry into the Council's relationship with the voluntary, community and social enterprise sector, led by Councillor Eddy. We invited the chair of the Voluntary Sector Forum and 2 colleagues from the sector to find out how this strategic relationship was working. We endorsed what happened in phase 1 and supported plans for phase 2. We recently welcomed the chair of the Voluntary Sector Forum back to the committee with a new chief executive to give us a progress update. We next established a resident satisfaction working group in response to poor ratings and resident surveys around the perception of the council. This group was led by myself with Councillors Burden, Hawkins, Keeling, Saunders and White. We brought in residents and the LGA and other councils and produced a number of recommendations, including an extra 6 people working group in 6 people working in the contact centre to improve telephone response times. Our recommendations included making the council's brand more dominant at the point of service delivery so that residents can see what their council tax is paying for and using the council's website to better effect. Our most recent working group was on the subject of working with developing local supply chains. This was led by Councillor Eddy with Councillors Frost, Keeling, Moorcroft and Mould. The recommendations were mainly around developing new responsible procurement policies, including new social value weightings when evaluating procurements, greater engagement with business and anchor organisations in Cornwall, developing the required culture and leadership around this topic, and a wide range of measures to support the local supply chain. This was another excellent piece of work, a good example of collaborative scrutiny across political groups and working effectively with officers to produce greater outcomes for Cornwall. As the new policy is implemented from April and it is promoted and embodied in practice across Cornwall, I think we will see the greater results for local businesses and the social value outcomes for our residents. We have also asked officers to return to this committee or its equivalent in the next council to see whether the social value weightings can be increased further next year. As well as our working groups, we have done some excellent work within committee meetings. We have scrutinised the budget each year. In particular, our Chief Operating and Section 151 officer and her team did an excellent job this year in keeping us thoroughly informed of the budget process. Now, at this stage, can I just put a plug in, please, for the survey form that I think you've all received now on the budget process, what went well, what you think could be improved next year, because we have a meeting on the 13th of April where we want to sort of go through this. So please fill in your survey form and encourage your colleagues to do likewise. Now, earlier in the life of the committee, we made a recommendation to full council which led to the council securing the Living Wage Foundation accreditation licence. This helps to improve the quality of life of our residents and ensure continued growth in the Cornish economy. We scrutinised and provided critical friend challenge to the group of companies' business plans each year, something we shall continue later on today. We've also provided a great deal of input into the corporate landlord model, leading into the Council's Estates Transformation Programme, which is now underway. Again, we shall hear more about this later today. These are just some of the pieces of work our committee has undertaken, and there are many other examples which I could refer to. We recognise that it's important to review and keep track of our previous issues. I've been very keen on the fact that when we do a piece of work, we revisit that. We don't, in the old days, leave the file to gather dust on the shelf. We keep tabs on these things and we go back and review these things. So I think that's very important to keep track of what we've done. Now, I understand that in the induction packs for the new and returning councillors in May, that they will contain some information on each committee, including links to our key pieces of work. So can I sort of say to any councillors that find themselves back on this committee in May and June, don't forget the body of work that we've done over the past 4 years. It could be, a very sound building block, for your future scrutiny work. We've looked at a number of issues, and don't forget that. For anyone that comes back to this committee, don't forget the good work that we've done. It's something you can build on for the future. I've always said that our committee doesn't deal with these sort of outward-looking things that perhaps the media pick up on. I always used to say that we never really front and centre for Radio Cornwall. But what we do is the lifeblood of this council. Timely, accurate information. Sound financial reports. All these things are the lifeblood of this council and are very important. I know we're not, as I said, front and centre for the media, but we do a lot of vital work, behind the scenes. Now, I think many of you know that I'm not standing again, so this is my last, committee meeting, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the privilege of chairing the meeting. But it's also the last meeting for someone else who has made a very valuable contribution to our work over the past 4 years. She did tell me that she didn't want any fuss made or any attention drawn to her. But as I'm not actually sat next to her down in the Trelawney room, and she can't kick me in the leg, I'm actually going to mention to you all that this is Tracy Clark's last meeting, and I think you will all join me in thanking Tracy for her excellent and very professional and efficient, contribution to what we've done. So Tracy, thank you very much for everything you've done. You've been a marvellous support to this committee, and I'd like to, end my comments there, please. Thank you very much. And now look to move on. Councillor Burden, you've got a cross in the box. Is there anything you'd like to add, please, as Vice Chairman?
Yes, well, Mr. Chairman, you thank everybody else, but I think you have been a brilliant chairman, a dedicated chairman in every way, and you really took the role on and found it, well, quite a task, really. You've been meticulous, and you've made sure that we've had meaty subjects to discuss and not pushed things under the table that were too complicated. So I think that you've been an excellent servant of the council. And as you say, scrutiny doesn't come high on the media role, but I think some of the things that you made sure we looked at will be very useful for the new council, whoever that is. Scrutiny, in a sense, is not an easy ride, because you're challenging the cabinet, you're challenging officers, and of course they don't all love us. But I think that a good opposition, because that's almost what scrutiny is, makes for strong government. And so can I thank you for your kind words as well. Can I just say about the customer access to council services? I think whoever's on the council next time must realise that what we found out, 20%-ish, 19-20% of people are not digitally connected. But the sad thing is, of course, that figure will rarely change, because as we get frailer, as our cognitive abilities decrease, then we won't. And we've had friends who've done all the training, they've got a computer and everything, and all of a sudden they say, my eyesight's going, I can't cope with it, it's gone wrong, and I'm frustrated. And so they ditch the whole thing. And I think we all as a community got to be aware that not everybody's got an iPhone and not everybody knows how to use it or wants to use it. So I think that we've got to make sure that we haven't got a new lower class of people who are not digitally involved. And of course that comes to all the media, social media stuff as well, because a lot of people are pulling away from that as well. But as you know, we've got to scrutinise, and the problem in this local government scene is that everything seems very fluid, everything's changing, and of course that is all the subjects for today. I mean, a year or two ago we didn't have all these arm's length companies, and we now really get into grips with them and their business plans. And lastly, Tracy is a saint because she puts up with me, and that takes some doing because, you know, I'm not always PC, say what I shouldn't say, etc. And I think when you read the reports that Tracy's written, especially for our special individual work, I mean, it's been amazing. You know, nobody said, oh, there's a spelling mistake. Nobody said you've got it wrong. And, you know, some of those documents were very long indeed. And so, Tracy, wherever you go in the future, and we wish you all the best, you'll be an asset to them as you've been an asset to us. Thank you. Well done, Richard. Enjoy your, I'm not quite sure, I was going to say honeymoon. Enjoy your second retirement. Well done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chairman. Thank you very much indeed. Moving on to item 6. If I could just say, items 6, 7 and 8 are quite similar in many ways. They were the subject of an informal day's investigation earlier in the month. Each one in turn, I shall go first of all to Councillor Mike Eathorne-Gibbons, the portfolio holder, to introduce the plan. We'll have brief comments from those associated with the plan, those who own the plan, and then we'll have plenty of time for members' questions. Now, in relation to items 6 and 7, members, please be aware there are pink papers there. If you've got a question on the pink papers, absolutely fine. But could you leave it to the end of the item, because we'll have to go into part 2, confidential section, and it is quite a convoluted process to do that. I'm quite happy to do it, no problems with that at all. But if you could just keep your part 2 questions to the end of the item, and then we'll go into part 2 and come back again for the recommendations. So I'm going to go to Councillor Michael Eathorne-Gibbons, please, to introduce item number 6, the Core Serve Business Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. And as you say, there was an all-members briefing last week on Core Serve and Wave Hub, which I understand from members was found to be very helpful. So that's good news. So as far as Core Serve is concerned, I highlight just 3 points. Firstly, the group will provide a cash return to the council for the coming year of 5.3 million against a target of 6.2, reflecting the impact of COVID. But over the next 4 years and increasing from 30 million is anticipated before the airport subsidy of some 4 million. This is reassuring. Secondly, the group has seen a restructuring of the boards into a single entity to strengthen governance, provide commercial agility, and allow quicker decision making. This is to be welcomed. Third and finally, there's been a restructuring of services into separate companies covering care, highways and facilities management. This too is to be welcomed, though there will be the need to ensure closer working on property matters between Cornwall Council, Treveth and Core Serve. This is part of the remit of the Council Property Working Group, which I chair. Chairman, that's all I want to say at the moment by way of introduction. I now hand over to the Core Serve team to comment further.
Thank you very much indeed.
So you're happy for me to come in, Chair? It's Peter Andrew, Chair of Core Serve, just to give a quick overview.
Yes, please, if you would, please, Peter.
Yeah. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I won't go into any kind of detail because we did that a week ago, but just for those who might not have been on the previous call, I just want to give the sort of highlights of our current business plan, which I have to say is relatively ambitious. But just to give you some confidence about the work that we've we've put into this plan. The board challenged the business back last March, actually. So we've been on this about a year to look at all of the areas in which we operate, to see what more we could do, how we could become more efficient and serve the people of population of Cornwall in a better way. The board then came back with the management team in the summer and had a review of where we'd got to. That was then challenged, and we had a further couple of sessions with the board at the back end of the autumn, early winter. And that has culminated in this plan, which I say is relatively ambitious, but it's been very, very well considered. We've built considerable growth across a lot of the areas of our business into the plan. We're looking to increase revenue across the plan period by about 41%. And this is partly from external revenue increase. It's about 30 million in Cormac itself, but also in various other areas, our care contracts